That day, Iori returned home with Chisa. Upon arriving at Grand Blue, they were met with the sight of Shinji, Ryujiro, and Tashio wearing only store aprons. Iori felt nauseous and wondered why they were dressed like that. They laughed with Ryujiro explaining that they were about to go diving and were wearing swimsuits under the aprons. However, when Shinji and Ryujiro turned around, it was clear they had nothing on beneath the aprons. Suddenly, Nanaka informed them that the guest expected that day couldn't make it due to unforeseen circumstances. They all got dressed and sat down for lunch together. Shinji and Ryujiro mentioned they had free time before the drinking party that night and asked Iori how he planned to spend the time until evening. Iori replied that he didn't intend to join the drinking session that night. This annoyed Shinji, who promptly reminded Iori of the club he had joined. Nanaka suddenly asked if Iori knew where his room was, considering it was his third day at Grand Blue. Iori realized he had been sleeping on campus for the past 2 days. Nanaka expressed understanding if Iori wanted to have fun on campus but insisted he couldn't sleep elsewhere for 3 consecutive days. Iori then conceded that he might indeed skip the drinking that night. Shinji and Ryujiro accepted this, noting that even without Iori, there were plenty of other members in the club. Suddenly, Ryujiro mentioned that they would be drinking that night with girls from Aonu Women's University. Hearing this, Iori begged Nanaka and Chisa for permission to join the party. Seeing Iori kneeling before Nanaka and Chisa, Ryujiro and Shinji asked what he was doing. Iori stated that he now remembered the club he had joined wasn't just about diving. Nanaka and Chisa were puzzled as to why Iori had taken off his clothes. Iori explained it was to show his sincerity. Despite Iori's earnest pleas, Nanaka remained firm, knowing he just wanted to have fun. At that moment, Iori asked Ryujiro and Shinji how he could get permission to go out that night. Shinji suggested giving up as Nanaka was very strict, but Iori refused to surrender. Shinji was curious about Iori's determination. Iori admitted it was driven by his sexual urges. Seeking advice on convincing Nanaka, Ryujiro suggested that Iori unpack his belongings in his room, but Iori felt that wasn't enough. Ryujiro then recommended decorating his room to make it look more mature. Ryujiro and Shinji even offered to help. Iori promptly informed Nanaka that he had finished unpacking and claimed he had become a mature man. When Iori showed Nanaka his room, she was shocked by the decor, filled with adult books, tapes, and pictures. Iori remarked that it wasn't supposed to be like that. Nanaka, surprised, commented that it seemed Iori had indeed matured. Ryujiro noted that when a mother finds adult magazines in her son's room, she considers him grown up. Iori had hoped they would decorate his room normally, like a typical college student's first place living alone. However, Shinji and Ryujiro exclaimed that Iori shouldn't have said so earlier. Iori admitted his mistake in asking them for help and told them to take the magazines out of his room. Shinji said that he had actually planned to give one to Iori as a welcome gift and asked him to choose his favorite. Not long after, Chisa came to Iori's room to give him a shelf she no longer used. However, she suddenly saw Iori and his friends watching an adult film together. Without hesitation, Chisa hit Iori with the shelf she had brought. Iori blamed Shinji and Ryujiro for making Chisa misunderstand the situation. Shinji refused to take the blame, pointing out that Iori was the one who invited them to watch. Frustrated, Iori told them to leave but asked them to leave one tape behind for him. Shinji and Ryujiro refused to abandon Iori in his state of distress. They asked for one more chance to redecorate his room, and Iori decided to trust them. Iori then headed to the store where he ran into Tashio. Tashio asked if something had happened as Chisa looked upset. Iori explained that he was getting a warm welcome from his seniors. Tashio commented that Chisa was not handling the situation very maturely. Suddenly, Nanaka greeted Iori. As he was about to explain the misunderstanding about his room's decoration, Nanaka surprised him by saying she did not mind at all. She even mentioned that she had asked for friends, and they told her that it was normal for guys Iori's age. Iori explained that his seniors had been messing with him and that his room's decoration had already been restored to normal. Just then, Kohei was seen returning an adhesive to Tashio. Iori had a bad feeling about his room. His instincts proved right. Kohei had redecorated it entirely with images of loli characters. Horrified, Iori immediately tore down the giant poster. Kohei was furious and even cursed him for it. Soon after, Shinji and Ryujiro arrived to check on Iori's room. They explained that they had asked Kohei to decorate it since he was also a freshman. However, this was not what Iori had wanted at all. He wanted the complete opposite. Kohei finally understood and agreed to redecorate the room again. Iori told him to leave, but Kohei refused. Not long after, Tashio called Iori over to help him. Although Iori had to go, he was still uneasy about what his room would look like next. His worst fears came true. When he returned, he found his room covered in BL, Boys Love, posters. Furious, Iori immediately punched Kohei. The new decoration was even worse than the last one. Iori ordered everyone to leave, but they ignored him. Shortly after, Nanaka called out to him, offering to help redecorate his room. However, Iori insisted that he was fine. Then the voices from the BL video the seniors were watching echoed through the room, sending shivers down Nanaka's spine. Horrified, she quickly left to call her friend again. Iori returned to his room and shouted that he would personally redecorate it so that he could finally join the party. He also wanted Nanaka to approve of the room's new look. Kohei asked if Iori had any ideas, and Iori decided to fill the room with pictures of Chisa, knowing how much Nanaka adored her younger sister. The seniors were skeptical about the concept, saying the room now looked like it belonged to a stalker. Kohei reminded everyone that the drinking party was about to start. However, Shinji informed them that the party had been postponed due to an issue. Iori was stunned to learn that the drinking party was not happening that day after all, meaning all his efforts had been for nothing. Moments later, Chisa arrived with tea. Upon seeing so many pictures of herself in Iori's room, she immediately took action, leading to Iori being confined in an empty room as punishment. The following morning, Iori woke up to find the club members gathered in his room. Curious about their presence, he asked why they were there. It turned out that the room was their usual gathering spot and they couldn't just change it because of him. Iori then headed to the shop where Tashio and Nanaka greeted him. Nanaka even complimented Iori for wearing clothes that day. Tashio inquired about any club activities scheduled. That day was meant for introducing new members who had joined. Nanaka asked how many new members there were. Ryujiro mentioned that 3 new members had joined: Kohei, Iori, and Chisa. Iori wondered why Kohei had come to Grand Blue. It turned out the seniors had informed him that voice actress Mizuki Kaya would be arriving at 10 o'clock. However, Iori was certain the seniors were lying, and sure enough, Shinji admitted it was just a prank. Nanaka added that Mizuki Kaya used to come often, and even other celebrities did too. Kohei tried not to believe it, but Nanaka insisted she wasn't lying. Tashio even mentioned there was a diving suit that Mizuki Kaya used to wear. Hearing this, Kohei asked to try it on, a request that sounded somewhat inappropriate. Iori asked if he could just watch since he couldn't swim, but Ryujiro mentioned there are divers who can't swim, and according to Shinji, it would be a waste if Iori didn't at least try. Shinji instructed the 3 of them to swim. Iori remarked that it should be fine even if he couldn't swim. Shinji explained that while mastering swimming techniques wasn't necessary, all divers should become accustomed to water. The seniors explained that individuals afraid of water aren't suited for diving because they might panic during problems, making it hard to control breathing and leading to rapid air consumption. Therefore, safety is crucial, and they need ample practice. For basic training, Ryujiro asked Iori to open his eyes underwater. Iori attempted it but couldn't manage. Ryujiro then gave him a diving mask, and Shinji provided one for Kohei as well. After putting it on, Iori re-entered the water. He heard strange sounds, couldn't breathe, and couldn't move, but he didn't feel pressure on his eyes. However, upon opening his eyes, he unexpectedly saw Kohei's naked body. Iori resurfaced, and Ryujiro asked if the underwater view was that astonishing. Iori didn't want to look again. At that moment, Chisa had just finished changing into her swimsuit and came out to join the practice. However, upon reaching the pool, she saw Iori completely naked, soaking in the pool. Seeing Chisa arrive, Iori felt a bit embarrassed and mentioned it was part of the training. Ryujiro commented that Iori liked taking off his clothes. Iori stated he didn't enjoy being naked. Chisa asked Ryujiro, who explained he was just training Iori to get used to the water. Chisa walked away to observe them from a distance. The seniors continued to persuade Iori to enjoy the beauty underwater, but Iori refused, stating he wasn't interested in going underwater anymore. After finishing practice, Iori sat alone in the shop. Nanaka approached him and asked how his diving practice had been. Iori replied that he hadn't enjoyed it at all. Nanaka then invited Iori to go somewhere with her. She took him to a large aquarium. Iori was puzzled as to why the aquarium allowed them in, considering it was already closed. Nanaka explained that Chisa sometimes helped out there. She showed Iori a video of Chisa diving in the aquarium. Seeing Chisa's friendly face and sweet smile, Iori remarked that it wasn't how he had imagined her before. Nanaka commented that Iori wasn't good at judging people and that Chisa was actually quite popular. She described Chisa as kind, and although she might sometimes be insincere and clumsy, she was sweet, good-natured, gentle, and had a pleasant scent. Iori gazed at the aquarium and mentioned that perhaps he should learn about fish too, as it might help him enjoy being underwater. Nanaka considered Iori's thoughts to be overthinking, pointing out that neither she nor Chisa had ever thought about that before. Iori speculated that it was because Nanaka and Chisa could swim and liked fish. Nanaka responded that no one instantly knows how to swim or has extensive knowledge about fish. They just want to experience what it's like. Iori didn't quite understand what Nanaka meant. Nanaka led Iori to a very large aquarium, and the view felt like an underwater world. Iori was amazed by it and felt as if he were in an underwater realm. However, Nanaka mentioned that it was merely an imitation of the underwater world, and there were many places to experience a world even more amazing than that. She revealed that it was actually Chisa who had asked her to bring Iori there, suggesting that perhaps Chisa wanted Iori to enjoy diving. Iori wondered why Chisa desired that. Nanaka speculated that Chisa simply wanted Iori to know that there was a beautiful world underwater. And that was also what Shinji and Ryujiro wanted. That's why they always encouraged Iori to dive. Iori then understood that no one likes to hear negative things about what they enjoy. And it's better to have many friends who share the same pleasures. That way it's more enjoyable for both him and them. Nanaka also wanted Iori to understand that although water can be intimidating, there's also a lot of fun to be had. Iori expressed that he was now more interested in the underwater world. After returning from the aquarium, Iori gave Chisa a keychain as a souvenir. Chisa remarked, asking if Iori hadn't considered how often she went there. Iori explained that the keychain was a token of his gratitude because Chisa had persuaded Nanaka to take him there. Chisa simply wanted Iori not to belittle diving activities, and Iori responded that he would give it a try. Chisa accepted the souvenir and asked how it felt underwater. Iori admitted that he didn't like it yet, but he wanted to get closer to it, which is why he wanted to give Chisa that gift, and he thanked her. Chisa suggested that Iori should have bought something cuter. That night, Iori dreamt of wearing a girl's high school uniform, preparing to serve his seniors. Upon waking the next morning, he felt disturbed by the nightmare. He encountered his two seniors carrying a girl's high school uniform, which made him scream as it reminded him of his dream. Kohei wondered why they had given him a boy's high school uniform. Shinji mentioned that it was time to focus on club activities. Chisa approached them and was puzzled to see Kohei and Iori holding girls' uniforms like perverts. Iori insisted it was a misunderstanding, and Kohei explained that the uniforms were for diving. Kohei even dressed his Ani-made body pillow in the uniform, believing it could ward off sharks. Shinji and Ryujiro then presented the actual diving equipment, revealing that the high school uniforms were not part of it. Iori and Kohei felt deceived. Shinji explained that diving requires significant funds, and the high school uniforms were a means to generate money. Kohei and Iori imagined how they could use the uniforms to earn money. Shinji informed them about the Izu Summer Festival, an event at their campus scheduled for May, which included an inter-club male beauty contest. The winning club would receive a cash prize, and they wanted Kohei and Iori to participate. Naturally, Iori and Kohei immediately refused. Ryujiro mentioned that the male beauty contest was called Danken, which sounded like a term for male genitalia. Iori and Kohei were shocked by the inappropriate-sounding name. Kohei was unwilling to participate in the contest, especially wearing such uniforms and being laughed at. Shinji told Kohei that he was a sweet guy and should use his charm to help the diving club. Iori remarked that this meant they didn't need him since they already had Kohei. Shinji stated that Iori would participate in the comedy category. Ryujiro asked Kohei and Iori to wear diving suits. That day, the seniors took them to the sea. Iori inquired if Chisa would join them, but she said she was tending the shop. Before Iori left, Chisa asked if he was looking forward to starting college life. Iori admitted he had been, but not anymore. Chisa was confident Iori would enjoy it. Iori trained with Ryujiro, while Kohei trained with Shinji. Ryujiro planned to teach Iori how to breathe underwater. He instructed Iori to place the regulator in his mouth and inhale. Iori tried it and found it very different from regular breathing. It required more effort to take a breath. Ryujiro acknowledged that it might be difficult at first, but assured Iori he would get used to it, encouraging him to try it underwater. Iori did so but soon surfaced, gasping for air. Iori felt scared to breathe underwater, but Ryujiro assured him it was only challenging initially and that he would get accustomed to it over time. Iori tried once more, but this time water entered his diving mask. Ryujiro adjusted the slightly loose mask. Suddenly, Iori noticed two people in a hurry and asked who those customers were. Ryujiro explained they were clients diving before their work commute. Iori was surprised that despite their busy schedules, they were willing to spend their valuable time and money to dive. Ryujiro expressed how amazing the place was. Iori recalled the large aquarium he visited with Nanaka the previous day. Ryujiro admitted he also feared running out of air underwater. He showed the spare regulator and explained it should be given to a friend who runs out of breath. He also mentioned the weight belt always faces the same direction, so it can be quickly removed in case of emergency. The diving equipment is designed not only for the user's safety, but also to assist diving buddies, and it has undergone thorough safety testing. Ryujiro assured Iori that he wasn't alone and that he would be there with him. Therefore, Iori should muster the courage to dive, knowing that Ryujiro would certainly come to his aid if needed. Iori began descending to the seafloor. When his knees touched the bottom, he opened his eyes and breathed calmly. He discovered an underwater world he had never seen before, referring to it as a new world unknown to him. After the diving practice, Iori immediately approached Chiza, expressing that he now understood how amazing it was to breathe underwater, even though he couldn't swim, and described it as exploring a new world. Iori even compared it to being in outer space and experiencing zero gravity. He enthusiastically shared his first experience, and Chiza instructed him to change clothes. They gathered again for drinks at the shop. Tashio served food and asked if Iori had overcome his fear. Iori admitted he still felt anxious about entering the water, but Ryujiro noted that Iori was beginning to appreciate the joy of being in a new world. Iori thanked his seniors, but they reminded him that there was no reason for him to refuse the new world he would face, which involved wearing a uniform for the spring festival. The next morning, Iori woke up feeling dizzy from excessive drinking. Suddenly, a woman pressed his head and told him to go back to sleep. Iori was shocked to see a sexy woman beside his bed and thought it wasn't real. However, he considered that getting drunk and waking up next to a half-naked girl was normal at that time. Iori didn't even recognize who the girl was, and Ryujiro mentioned that their club was an intercampus club and that the girl was Azusa from Aomui Women's University. Iori asked why Azusa was sleeping there. Shinji suggested it was because there was a place to sleep there, but Iori pointed out that he had gone to bed first. According to Shinji, Azusa wasn't concerned about such matters, as evidenced by her clothes scattered around. Iori wondered why a woman would undress in a room full of men. Iori was surprised to see Ryujiro and Shinji dressed that day. It turned out they had activities outside and had invited Azusa. That morning, Azusa cooked okonomiyaki for them. After Kohei tasted it, he found it delicious. The club planned to sell okonomiyaki at the Izu Spring Festival, with the proceeds going to club funding. Therefore, Azusa would teach the new members how to make it that day. Meanwhile, Shinji and Ryujiro went to prepare the equipment, and after finishing, they would all eat together. Previously, Shinji and Ryujiro informed Kohei and Iori about an important matter regarding the Izu Spring Festival. They were actually tasked with persuading Chiza to participate in the women's beauty contest, with a promise that if Chiza won, it wouldn't have to join the men's contest. While learning to cook, Iori and Kohei pondered how to get Chiza to agree, knowing she usually refused to participate in beauty contests. They concluded they needed to catch Chiza off guard. Their plan was to get Chiza drunk and then trap her into agreeing to join the contest. Iori and Kohei began their scheme. Iori pretended to be hot and asked for a drink, to which Kohei agreed to prepare. Kohei returned with 2 glasses, claiming both contained oolong tea. Iori took the glass from Kohei's left hand and offered it to Chiza, but she declined, saying she was busy. Suddenly, Azusa grabbed the glass from Kohei's left hand and drank it. Azusa sensed something unusual in Iori's drink, but Kohei insisted there was nothing odd and urged Iori to prove it. Their first attempt failed, so they switched roles. This time, Iori prepared the drinks. Unfortunately, while mixing them, Chiza approached Iori and remarked that his actions were truly awful, suspecting he was trying to get Kohei drunk. Once the food was ready, Azusa tasted Chiza's cooking and found it quite good. As they were eating okonomiyaki, Kohei and Iori suddenly offered Chiza a beer, but she refused. Azusa immediately requested the beer, commenting on how considerate Iori and Kohei were. She also mentioned hearing from Nanaka that Iori and Kohei were amusing, revealing that Azusa was the friend Nanaka often called, so she knew a lot about Iori. Iori then realized that Azusa must be aware of his room's decorations from that time. Iori explained that all the pornographic and homoerotic items in his room were just a misunderstanding. Suddenly, Azusa confessed that she liked both, feeling happy to meet someone with similar interests. Kohei didn't understand their conversation and reminded Iori to continue their mission to get Chiza drunk. Kohei and Iori prepared oolong tea and shaved ice made from alcohol, but fortunately, Chisa declined them. Chisa didn't understand what Iori and Kohei were trying to do, but Azusa questioned why they wanted to get Chisa drunk. They denied the accusation. Finally, Kohei and Iori confessed that they wanted Chisa to participate in the beauty contest, but Chisa immediately refused. They kept pleading, but Chisa remained firm in her decision. Azusa suggested that wasn't the right way to ask and that they should explain their reason. Iori explained that if Chisa entered the beauty contest, it would get money and wouldn't have to join the men's contest. After hearing their reason, Chisa still refused to participate in the women's beauty contest. That night, Iori and Kohei informed Shinji that they had failed to persuade Chisa, meaning they would have to join the men's contest. Iori asked who had participated in the beauty contest the previous year, and it turned out Azusa had represented the diving club, but was eliminated in the first round because she forgot her swimsuit and only wore underwear, leading to disqualification. Shortly after, the club members started a rock, paper, scissors game. Azusa, who was sitting with Nanaka and Chisa, expressed her desire to join the men. Seeing Azusa approach and express her wish to join, Iori and Kohei were shocked, not expecting that the loser of the game would have to strip. Azusa was already familiar with the rules of the game, and she was not going to end up completely naked since she was a woman. Iori was eager to take the first challenge against Azusa, but before long he lost and was already stripped down. He tried again to take another chance, but once again he lost. Azusa laughed, clearly entertained by Iori's antics. They continued with a speed-based challenge, and Iori showed no signs of giving up. By the end of the game, Azusa had successfully gotten both Kohei and Iori completely naked. Azusa returned to the table with Chisa and Nanaka, commenting on how fun the game had been. Nanaka mentioned how adorable she found Iori and Kohei, though Chisa was confused about what exactly was cute about them. It turned out that Azusa had taken a liking to them. She then asked Shizo why she was not interested in joining the women's contest, considering it was an advantage to be a woman. Chisa did not understand what Azusa meant, so Azusa assumed that the club members had no doubts about Chisa winning, which meant they believed she was the cutest. Chisa clarified that it was not that she did not want to participate, but she did not want to be the only one embarrassed. Azusa understood her reasoning. Shinji and Ryujiro informed the club members that Chisa had agreed to join the beauty contest thanks to Iori and Kohei. However, the high school uniforms were still given to Iori and Kohei. It turned out that Chisa had set one condition. If she was going to enter the contest, and Iori and Kohei also had to participate. Upon hearing this, Iori and Kohei immediately started arguing. They were frustrated that all their efforts from the previous day had been in vain, as they were still dragged into the contest. Iori insisted that Kohei should be the one to wear the female uniform, but Kohei refused. Their argument continued, but Shinji saw it as if they were having fun, while Ryujiro was happy to see how close they were. With the matter settled, Chisa felt relieved. That day marked the Izu Summer Festival, and Iori, Kohei, and Chizo were in charge of running Peekaboo's Okonomiyaki stand. Ryujiro arrived bringing drinks for Iori and Kohei and asked how their stand was doing. Iori responded that everything was going fine, but Kohei suspected they had some competition. Ryujiro pointed out that the neighboring stand, which was attracting a crowd of women, belonged to the Tinkerbell Tennis Club, known for its group of attractive, popular men. Kohei dismissed them as pathetic otaku, while Iori referred to them as pig's blood. Chisa urged Iori and Kohei to stop saying things like that. Suddenly, Azusa arrived without any clothes on, prompting Ryujiro to ask if she had walked there. Azusa explained that she had taken the bus partway. Ryujiro suggested that she look for a t-shirt instead, so Azusa asked Iori to help her find one. As Iori accompanied Azusa through the bustling school festival, she seemed to be enjoying the event. Out of nowhere, Azusa asked what type of guy Iori was into, leaving Iori shocked by the question. Azusa remarked that they had the same preferences, reminding Iori of a previous conversation in which she had said she liked both men and women. She explained that when it came to men, she preferred Shinji, while for women, she liked Nanaka. Iori was stunned, and Azusa then asked about his own preferences. Realizing this was his only chance to clear up the misunderstanding, Iori felt the need to tell her that he was not bisexual. However, Azusa expressed how happy she was to have met someone like Iori, admitting that she could not talk so freely with anyone else. She then grew even more curious about the kind of person Iori was attracted to. Later, while Iori and Kohei were working at the stand, Kohei questioned why Azusa had suddenly insisted on switching places with him. Iori remained silent, simply feeling guilty about the situation, which made Kohei even more curious about what happened. The two of them then wandered around the festival, enjoying the peaceful moment without any upperclassmen nearby. However, their sense of relief was short-lived when Shinji and Ryujiro suddenly appeared. Shinji brought up the idea of drinking with another club that was nearby. Kohei assumed it was some kind of group date and was excited about the possibility of meeting beautiful women. However, it turned out that the club they would be drinking with was the Rugby Club, made up of a group of muscular men. Meanwhile, Chisa and Azusa were dealing with two customers who were flirting with them. The situation made them visibly uncomfortable, prompting Iori and Kohei to step in and scare the customers away. Azusa thanked them for helping her out and suggested they take turns watching the stand. Before leaving, she whispered to Iori, urging him to tell her what he had done with Kohei. Iori quickly brushed her off, stating that he would be working at the stand with Chisa. Grateful that Chisa was keeping him company, Iori thanked her, prompting Chisa to ask what was going on. Iori admitted that he simply did not want to be alone with Azusa. Chisa noted that Azusa was beautiful and figured that Iori was just nervous about being alone with her. The two continued serving customers, and Iori asked when the beauty contest would begin. Chisa informed him that it would start at 4 o'clock, with the winner announced the following day. Iori reminded her to get ready, but Chisa nonchalantly said she wanted to participate as she was. Suddenly, Nanaka and Azusa arrived to pick up Chisa and help her prepare for the contest. Kohei, watching them leave, asked Iori where Chisa was going. Iori explained that she was getting dressed up for the competition, which made Kohei wonder if Azusa and Nanaka would end up dressing Iori as well. Ryujiro then stepped in, informing them that it was time to close the stand and head over to watch the contest. The beauty contest was about to begin, and the audience was buzzing with excitement, as it was the main event. Kohei wondered aloud if they would be performing on such a crowded stage later. The first contestant, Aina from Aomori Women's University, appeared overly made up. Next, it was Chisa's turn to take the stage. She appeared fierce, and her introduction was stiff and awkward. Her friends noticed that if she continued like this, she might lose. Shinji asked Kohei if he had any ideas. Kohei suggested that to make a shy girl shine, they needed to make her smile. However, Iori thought making Chisa smile would be very difficult. Shinji proposed that if they smiled, perhaps Chisa would smile too. They tried calling her name and smiling together, but that approach failed. Chisa's face showed disgust instead. Shinji then asked Kohei if he had any other ideas. Kohei suggested revealing her embarrassed side. The club members bared their chests and displayed banners supporting Chisa, but that method also failed. According to Kohei, she should have shown embarrassment, but instead, Chisa looked at them as if they were trash. Their plan failed, leaving only one option: lifting her skirt. Kohei planned to throw small balls at Chisa, like grade school boys embarrassing a girl. Iori thought this might make Chisa very angry. Ryujiro added that Chisa might kill Iori if he did it. Iori questioned why he had to be the one to do it and suggested deciding with rock, paper, scissors. However, Kohei had another idea. They would all throw the balls simultaneously so Chisa wouldn't know who the culprit was. They agreed to Kohei's suggestion. The first throw went smoothly, making Chisa feel embarrassed. Iori then realized that his friends hadn't thrown any balls. At that moment, Chisa glared at Iori sharply. After the contest, Chisa searched for Iori, intending to beat him up. Iori and Kohei hid behind some plants when suddenly a beauty pageant contestant approached Kohei, surprising him.